What's up, guys? Welcome back to Right Side, and welcome back to another episode of the Right Report. The first headline I want to talk about is the SAVE Act controversy that is going on in the Congress. Originally passed in the House back in July, the Senate blocked it as Mike Johnson tried to kind of patch it with a stopgap funding bill so the government could be funded. The Senate did not vote on it, thus blocking it. Mike Johnson re-proposed the stopgap funding bill without the SAVE Act portion, and 19 Republicans voted against it, instantly killing the legislation. SAVE Act, of course, was engineered to kind of tighten up the requirements on registration and requiring proof of citizenship, things that Republicans and the right have been kind of advocating for a while now. And of course, the Democrats all voted against it. But as Thomas Massey kind of alluded to in a speech or a testimony, I guess you can say, of what his perspective on the bill in Congress, this was an example of political theater. As Massey brilliantly kind of explained, Mike Johnson knew this wasn't going to work. He knew it wasn't going to work in the Senate. So what Mike Johnson did was he had the House approve it in July, knowing that the Democrats would not vote for it. And so he floated a bill that he knew would not get approved in the Senate or even get the time of day, because he knew that he'd be able to go back and use that as a talking point against the Democrats about them being against election integrity. And Mike Johnson kind of confirmed that theory by removing the SAVE Act and proposing the resolution back into the House without the SAVE portion. I mean, it's political theater at its finest, the type of stuff that gives Congress a really bad reputation amongst the population. A kind of era of, this isn't being taken seriously. They think it's all a game, or when these types of stuff really affect everyday people. It affects the health of the country and the trust that we can put in the election system, with votes being counted, who's voting, when they're voting, and whether or not they can, if their vote can even be counted in the first place. Mike Johnson has repeatedly proved himself to be a weak, I think would be fair to say, very weak Speaker of the House. I hear a lot of people on the right, kind of give Mike Johnson some slack with, look how bare of a majority he has, things like that. And, I would agree with that if our congressional system, our system of government, wasn't a three-legged kind of system, at least legislatively, where you have something being proposed in the House and the Senate, has to go through both chambers of Congress, and then it goes to the president's desk. When there's two different houses of Congress, it doesn't matter which one you hold or how big your majority is. It doesn't matter if you have if you're in the House, you have a 5-house majority or a 50-house majority. A majority is a majority. And that majority is equally as powerful in negotiations as a Senate majority or whatever. So I understand that the Republicans currently have a very slim majority in the House, but we still have a majority. And whether or not we had 50 or 5, that majority should be used to its fullest extent. Whether or not we have a large majority, it comes down to the fact that will it pass in the House. And getting all your ducks in a row, Mike Johnson and the Republicans have had multiple opportunities to really put a tension on the Democrats and Biden. But it's just not happening. We act like we don't have the majority when we do. We still give concessions. Most notably, I remember back when it was Kevin McCarthy, the government shutdown, the national debt debacle. He caved in with Biden. Now, I was infuriated with Kevin McCarthy when this happened, because you have to understand that if the government, if we default on the debt, no one is going to remember who the Speaker of the House was. No one will. But everyone is going to remember who the president was, who the national debt defaulted under whose administration. No one remembers these Senate leaders and House leaders when significant bills are passed. No one does. But everyone knows who the president was. And so Kevin McCarthy should have really leveraged that and kind of told Biden, it's not really my head who's on the pike here, it's yours. And because of that, I have these lists of demands, and we are going to really push hard on these. Now, we did get some reforms from that, but not nearly as much as we could have, considering that it was a bill in the national debt. No one wants it to blow up on their laps. So Mike Johnson has had a majority. He is the House leader. The power of the purse comes from the House. So he should really be flexing that leverage, no matter how bare his majority is. And the fact that Johnson is he's trying to keep everyone in the Republican Party happy, which if you try to make everyone happy, you make no one happy. You had the Freedom Caucus. You had people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey vote present on the resolution on the spending bill without the SAVE Act in it. You had people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey voting present on the stopgap funding bill without the SAVE portion in it. So Mike Johnson has proved himself again and again to be highly weak, not willing to really fight for things, and we'll see what happens in November regarding the House majority, whether it expands or somehow Democrats take it. We'll see. But with that said, my take on the whole SAVE Act thing in a quick synopsis, it's political theater. It's legislation that needs to be passed. If Mike Johnson was really serious about it, he would have passed it years ago. It would have been one of the first things he passed. But he waited until this long to really do anything about it. Tried to have the Democrats look like they have egg on their face, when in reality, the people who do these types of stuff are the ones with egg on their face. And once they kind of realize that, I hope that they stop doing this. But it's all for campaign stuff. So SAVE Act didn't get passed. Political theater. Mike Johnson is weak. And we'll see what eventually gets into the stopgap funding bill. Next order of business is the Trump-Iran type kind of dispute that's going on right now. Iran released an animation of them like in a bunker controlling like a little drone RC thing, and an animation kind of insinuating that they were going to assassinate Trump and all this kind of stuff. Kind of crazy that because of the assassination attempts, we're kind of desensitized to this stuff already. And a lot of us kind of forget that, this is a foreign country, Iran, threatening to assassinate Trump. And to a lot of people, they take this stuff, relatively seriously. Like they're like, oh yeah, Iran, just release an animation video of them plotting to assassinate Trump. That's crazy. But Trump, as Trump does, responded in a very Trumpian way. He basically said that if they tried to hurt anyone, then he would blow their largest cities in the country at large to smithereens. I, for one, really like this diplomacy strategy, I guess you could say. Making sure your opponent, making your intentions clear to your enemies. You could argue that strategic ambiguity has its uses and things like that, but strategic clarity also has its uses in separate things. But I think it also comes down to who is using the strategy. For example, I think that if someone like Trump used strategic ambiguity, that would be a lot worse in a way, because Trump is so unpredictable. Trump is very unpredictable, is the word I'm looking for. So if Trump makes these ambiguous threats or ambiguous kind of lines in the sand, then countries are really kind of like even more like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I could do anything. And then when you try to, be like, hey, don't do this or else, with someone like Trump, who's, if he's trying to be ambiguous, that could escalate things a lot more than being very clear. When Trump is very strategically clear in his intentions, then it works a lot better, because they know that he is so unpredictable that he will do it, And they know very clearly, the line of stand is very bold of what they can and cannot do. So where strategic ambiguity kind of makes it think like, oh, I don't know if there's a lot of gray here, and I don't want to step on any toes, so maybe I won't do it, maybe I will. But sometimes you want to call his bluff. Trump is so unpredictable to a lot of people that he might actually do it, and him putting such a bold line in the sand, I think really works. It happened with North Korea, of course happened with, worked with Russia, things like that. So the situation with Iran is they have, in their mind, they have until November 5th if they want to do anything at all. Because if November 5th rolls around and Trump wins, then they can't do anything. Because if they assassinate Trump anywhere between November 5th to January 20th of next year, then they know that J.D. Vance will just absolutely wipe them off the planet. They have from now until then to do anything that they feel like they want to do. Very unsettling, but Trump is a very strong-willed person. If there's anything you've learned from these, he's a very strong-willed person. This guy keeps on getting attacked, keep on getting threats, physical attacks, and he just moves forward. It's very admirable. But Iran may be trying to puff their chest out a little too much, and it may come back to bite them big time. I just hope that people don't try to act on Iran's intentions and frame them as it being Iran doing the thing. I don't want people acting on Iran's behalf and saying, oh, we're on behalf of Iran because they want to trigger a war or they want to trigger a war or something. I hope that doesn't happen. But with the neocon, war hawk establishment, military-industrial complex, that's what I'm really kind of scared of. Trump, Iran making threats, and of course, Trump threatens with bombs. Last thing I want to get into for this week are the polls. I feel like this is going to be a weekly occurrence, but the polls are really starting to shift very interestingly. I kind of brought up in my last week's video that I don't really believe in the poll. They think they're all kind of fake, and I still believe that very much, at least to a certain extent. But when it's really interesting how the polls are kind of moving and shifting and things like that. I become more confident each and every single day that Trump's going to win. You can't forget that there's always a large segment of the population that is never polled, and they are very conservative. It's the rural voters who are poor. They don't really have a lot of experience with technology. They don't trust the media. They don't trust pollsters, and so it's very difficult to get that demographic in a polling kind of question or a survey. So the polls are always missing a little bit of the population, which when you see stuff like North Carolina around a point lead for Trump, I think that in those cases it's at least 1 point. It's at least 1 point. Because all these polls since 2016 have repeatedly undersold the Republicans, undersold Trump. And I think Trump wins Pennsylvania. I think Trump wins Georgia. I think Trump wins Arizona. I think Trump wins North Carolina. I think that he might even have a decent chance of winning Wisconsin. And on election day, I think he might even get Nevada. Trump's road to 217 is a lot easier than Harris's. And I think Harris knows that. And I think it scares her to death because it should. And Harris is already kind of moving her base from Pennsylvania to North Carolina and Georgia, trying to pull the end around kind of behind the back. They're gonna really put their eggs in the Georgia, North Carolina route to 270. I don't think it'll work though. I think that Georgia was a fluke in 2020, and although North Carolina has been flirting with the potential of a flip, I don't think that it'll happen. I think that it'll dance on the line, but I think it'll always go red. Arizona, I think, is another one of those states where 2020 may have been a little bit of a fluke. But I don't think he wins Michigan. I think it's a far reach for Michigan. Wisconsin, maybe may have a shot in Wisconsin. A sleeper state would be a place like Minnesota. That'd be very interesting. But as of right now, I think Trump's route to 270 is very plausible. very, very plausible. And I think that because of that, the polls are going to really starting to reflect that. And it'll be very interesting to see what the polls are next week. But for now, the polls favoring Trump and getting stronger. Trump's gaining momentum. Harris is quickly panicking. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you'd like button. If you'd like to support and help the channel grow, please subscribe and ring the bell to stay updated with all my uploads. Finally, whether you agree or disagree, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I look forward to engaging with you guys in respectful and thoughtful discussions. With that said, I'll see you guys next video. See ya.